It's a Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Fodringham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box for Doffin, he can hit them, and he does. Doffin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello everybody, welcome, good evening, welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast and back on the horse a little bit. A point at home to Preston North End on Saturday. Quite a lot to cover from just a point, but we'll go through the goals, the decisions, the injuries. Obviously, there's injuries because it's Rotherham United. So we'll cover all that over the next hour or so. We have Danny back with us. How are you doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm at the Gorillas Beer Hall in Mexborough talking to you guys. Had a few pints watching the Sheffield United game, which was quite funny, if I'm being honest. And I'm ready to talk all things Rotherham United now, though.
Yeah. I hope there's no Sheffield United fans watching. You know, if they switched off from Sheffield United to just watch some other football stuff and you just brought that up straight away, Danny. It's very kind of you for him.
Well.
Kev, you're back with us. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. I wish I were in a beer all like Danny, but I'm in man cave sipping Ribena. So,
And Tom, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Unlike both of you guys, I have no liquid on board, so I might have to go get one at the break. Nah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm good. I'm all good.
Good stuff. We've got a lot of people with us. There's a mixture of comments. Adam Coward says, hi, guys, a quality performance. YouTube user is with us, says, good evening, one and all. Yes, better, but still questions need to be answered. Millibird 99 Franks is with us for the first time tonight. Thank you for being with us, Millibird. Appreciate you being with us. Dave Lawton thought we were a touch negative on the post-match yesterday. We'll go through it. We've got a lot of people with us. Thank you for being with us. Kev, you obviously want the expect some interest in your thoughts. We'll talk about the specifics in a minute because there's a lot of specifics to talk through. But what were your general feels at full time when the final whistle goes and you've got a point? What were your general feelings on the game?
I guess like everybody else, you're playing top of table, you'd have took the point. But we know as home form's key to stay up this year. So even though it's top of table and it's a point, you still got to be winning your home games. I'm not sure we did enough in the game to win it, if I'm honest. I think Preston were the better team. They're on to us from the offset. Obviously, Hugill's goal was a great goal. But point, I'm happy with a point, even though I think we do need three points when we're playing zone games. But yeah, all in all, I'd have took it against top of the table.
Tom, you about same?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to take that into consideration that they are top of the table and there's a reason why they're there, even this early on. And then to come away with something, and something that's, perhaps a deserved something is, again, another indication of how vital our home form is going to be this season, especially considering the contrast with the away form that we've seen the last couple of games. Yeah,
that's true. Tony, obviously, I don't think we were critical yesterday on the interaction. I felt realistic, to be honest with you. I didn't want to do it too high, too low. Are you still the same feelings and thoughts from yesterday? Of the changes yesterday?
I still feel a bit the same, to be fair. Like, don't get me wrong, it was an improvement on the Millwall game because Millwall was dire. But at the same time, there were still some lingering issues from that game as well. Like I say, we improved, but it's nowhere near the performance against Norwich. We've done well to get a draw against top of the league. We're still unbeaten. We've technically knocked them off top of the league by drawing with them. But for me, there's still a few questions. Even though I still think Viktor was fouled for the build-up for their goal, he's still a free man in the box. He's not been picked up. There were times where the defence weren't picking the men up. Tyler Blackett, it's a much improved performance, but again, it's nowhere near his performance against Norwich. And if Norwich is the bar that we've set, we need to be trying to get there every single time that we play because that's how well we can play. But on paper, it's a good result. It's a draw against a team that's unbeaten. But from what we've seen of Rotherham before that, it's still below par. But I'm just happy that we didn't lose and get battered, if I'm being honest. And that's what a lot of Rotherham fans have said to me. Thank Christ we didn't get battered by Preston. Thank Christ we drew. And I think we'd all took a draw before kick-off, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan Lowe said, obviously referring to Preston, but he said if you don't win those games, you've got to not lose them. And I think that's very similar for us. If you're not going to beat top at league, try not to at home, try not to lose. Yeah. Before we move into the game proper, we should have started this. Aaron Bush says love for Josh Vickers, R.I.P. Law. Yeah, Josh Vickers' partner sadly passed away in the week. We tweeted something earlier, but your thoughts, love, and everything to Josh Vickers and his family. It's tragic news for him. Yeah, I'm sure he's felt the love from all the Rotherham fans and Derby fans and football in general over the week. So yeah, terrible news. Let's move on to the game, Kev. Jordan Hugill divides opinion. I think it's fair to say. But the goal itself was a reminder of what Jordan Hugill can do, not just the finish, but the actual pressing of the man, winning the ball, doing a bit of dirty work, and then being something. That's what he can do, and maybe want to see a bit more of that side of his game.
I think that goal, as brilliant as it was, and I'm more than happy it happened. That just added to my frustration, Jordan Hugill, because that's what he can do. We know he can do that. I want to see more of that. I don't want to see more of backing into defenders and ducking down and winning free kicks. I want to see that. But then, on the flip side, it was a great goal. I think I listened to the commentary afterwards on the way thing, and I think the Les Payne and Matty Goodwin commentary just about sums up, I think, the whole Rotherham fan base. You've got Matty Goodwin saying, "Oh, what again?" Then look, Les Payne, "No, oh, it's just, just madness." But I think the game in general, I disagree with Danny on something. I don't think it would foul on Viktor. I think he'll.
Do you not?
No, I've seen it from a different angle, and I'm not sure. I just think he's not the biggest goalkeeper, is he? That kid who had it in's about 6'9" or something. It's crazy. I just think he just couldn't get nowhere near it. It was one of them things. But we've had him given. I know in the other game when Hugill had one disallowed, I don't think that was a foul on the Leicester goalie. So we seem to be outdone by that. But back to the Hugill one. Yeah, great goal. Divided opinions. I'm still not. Jury's massively out for me.
It was his sixth goal against former clubs, Tom. 7 goals, 6 of them against former clubs. Thankfully, we'll play another one on Saturday. We'll talk about it later in the week. But we saw parts of a very, very good Jordan Hugill. I think Kev's right. I thought we saw some bad parts of Jordan Hugill. The way he goes down so softly is frustrating. But I suppose it's part of his game because he wound up Jordan's story some absolutely rotten. So maybe he scored, I suppose. So we've got to praise him.
Yeah, no, exactly like Kev said. It's weird how much of a different kind of striker he turns into, especially at home and especially against teams that he's previously played for. It's almost like he needs to be fired up to play to his best, which can be good, can be bad. In a lot of cases, it is good, but I agree. He tries to win free kicks way too easily for me. The ducking down and the trying to win them when I know it's tough, especially playing for us, and especially with some of the caliber of refereeing in this league to win those kind of fouls. It's so tough, but you've got to make more of an effort for me. And I just think, it's frustrating to see what he can do and what he sometimes does do. But the best and the worst one was definitely showed on Saturday. Looks like Danny's got a friend wanting to join in.
The joys of filming from a pub.
Yeah, no, it's just Anyway, but it was it's tough, and it makes you wonder what Nombe offers that's different, or also what Nombe offers that is almost simultaneous with what Hugill offers. Do you play 2? Do you play 3? How do you get the best out of him? How do you get the best out of other strikers in the team? It's tough, but it's I don't know. I personally feel like it's all kind of going to come and gel together, but we shall see. Yeah.
Scott Grundy says, just because Hugill scored a great goal doesn't make him a good player. He plays the man, never the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's good right to play the man sometimes. And I think you can win a foul. I just think he overdoes it. He just does it 4 or 5 times a game more often than he should do. I think that's the frustration. I thought though, Danny, in the second half when he had a strike, I know we were forced into the change, but I thought when he had the striker next to him with Green, I thought he looked better. He looks better with somebody alongside him. I thought certainly did yesterday for me.
Yeah, I agree, to be fair. I mean, even though he's got the 2 men out wide in Onyedinma and Green when we're in a 3 up top, he's still really isolated because he's only like the one out-and-out striker. But when he's got like the man next to him or slightly behind him, he's got the runner off his shoulder, and it's what Ronnie Moore observed when he talked about it on Radio Chef. He needs that man next to him because then he doesn't play to his full strength. If he's got the people out wide who can whip the ball into the box, it can feed off those headers or the second ball if it doesn't get cleared properly. But if he's playing as a proper centre forward, he needs the man behind him. It's a bit like Michael Smith in that regard. Like, remember when Michael Smith had David Ball bang behind him? That's almost the best we had out of Michael Smith, not goal wise, but performance wise, I think. And Hugill's almost the same. He needs that man, but I think Hugill needs him next to him rather than behind him. And if it's like Hugill and Nombe or Green in the two, like we saw in pre-season, I think that's where we saw the best. But with this, is like the out-and-out centre forward is still too isolated. And unless we want Hugill to feed off set pieces and not from open play, we need the two. We need the two. We need someone to come short with Hugill. It's like we've seen where Green's gone really out wide on the left, and Onyedinma's come short and almost stood next to Hugill, and we've scored from that. But Hugill up top on his own is just too isolated, and if he doesn't get service from out wide, we've seen it against Millwall and Huddersfield, he can't really do anything, can he?
No.
But I agree, a good goal doesn't make it a good performance from Hugill, but at the same time, it's an absolute cracking finish, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You certainly can't take that away from him. We certainly wouldn't try and take it away from him. Moving on to their goal, Kev. I think it's foul. I can see why it's not given, sort of. It's like I mentioned, the frustration for the Leicester game when getting called off, ruled out, whatever the word is. Yeah. But they had a spell in that first half where they had corner after corner after corner. We just couldn't get out, and I think that's something we really need to work on. That when we're under a bit of pressure, under a bit of cosh, we need to find a way out, because it just felt inevitable that they were going to score before after, I thought, and obviously eventually it came.
Yeah, it did. I think that, like I said before, I felt like the runners from the kickoff, they were using the wide men very well, especially down the left-hand side. They were terrorising us. We couldn't, they were zipping balls into the box. Thankfully, I had no one on the end of them, but it were coming. You could feel it were coming, and I don't know what we've got to do to stop that happening, apart from defend better. But we were conceding silly corners, and it were always going to come. And like I said, I don't think it was. I can see why people thought it would be a foul and split divides again, but. Good header, to be fair. Good corner in, but they were doing it all again. They had a set piece about 10 minutes before, and it took them about a minute to take a corner. It was really weird.
Ages, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was taking ages, but it was a very, very well planned routine. They had a guy drop shot, he bypassed it, and a guy on the edge of the area, free shot. Luckily, tanked it, but that could have been 1-1. But we just need to see it out. It was almost like the ground. It was a very weird atmosphere yesterday. We were 1-0 up, and we all felt like they were going to equalise it. It was bizarre. It was really strange.
Yeah, it was a very subdued atmosphere yesterday, which was quite strange. Preston in general, Tom, thoughts on them, top at league? I thought they moved certainly the first half, I thought they moved the ball when they were defending. They turned defence into attack very, very well. I thought they were really quick without being just long ball. Other than that, I thought they were a typical championship team, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the way that you said it then is pretty spot on. They are a typical championship team, tidy on the ball, can move it quick, phases of play where they look good, but then other phases of play where they look average and look beatable. But yeah, I mean, time will tell, I guess. I think their striker was a handful. I think Blackett dealt with him really well, but I think he looked very good.
They reminded me a bit of Luton, to be honest with you. Pretty well organised, pretty clever on ball, smart how they deal with games, but unspectacular.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they seem justified for where they are at the minute. And probably, if you watch any of their other games, it's probably the same performance week in, week out, and they get the results or they don't. But that kind of style never changes, the structure and the kind of 100% from every player. But yeah, other than that, you can see them doing well, but not exceptionally well. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. But yeah, that's all. All you can really say is that they're a championship side, and that's the caliber that we're going to be getting every game. So if we can compete with those every game, then yeah.
Well, we were saying for a while, if you're consistent in Championship, you'll find yourself in the playoff. If Preston can be consistent, that's probably why they find themselves where they are. Exactly. John Morrell, obviously, Birmingham fan, says he was amazed when Preston, where they played last week, that they were top. They looked really poor. One own goal and scored the only good chance they had. Fair play to them, but they can't be sustainable. I think that's possibly true. Danny, we'll just finish. We don't want to talk about Preston all night, but just your general thoughts on them. Could you see a sustained promotion push from them?
If I'm being completely honest, the way I saw Preston play against us, yeah, they'll be up the top end this season. But if I'm being honest, their way of playing at the minute is only sustainable for like so long. They seem to have really hit the ground running. Don't get me wrong, it's an achievement that they're unbeaten yet, and they've put some good results in. They don't seem to be a team that's free-flowing with how many goals they score, but they seem to be quite clinical, shall I say, with going forward. But that can only be so long. They will hit a point where they'll hit a rough patch of form, and that may see them drop off. Don't get me wrong, they're an amazing team at the moment. They've only just been knocked off the perch at the top by us, which is some achievement, if I'm being honest. But it's one of them sides where I can see them keeping this going until maybe December, January, and then they'll have a drop-off. Yeah. They may squeak into the playoff, if I'm being honest, but I can't really see them getting automatic, that's for sure. There'll be a handful later in the season after they've strengthened in January. But I think it's almost like we've played them at the wrong time but got a result out of it. Does that make sense? You know, we've played them whilst they are the informed team in the division. Yeah. But we've still got a result out of it, which is fair enough. But I can't see it being sustainable of its season because we haven't seen a quote-unquote mucky result that you see from promotion winning sides. But you know, I've got no malice against Preston. I wish them all the best, but I just can't see it lasting the entire season.
I think you've got to give him a bit of credit. Matt Taylor spoke in the lounge before the game, and he was talking about how Preston they've built this side over the last 2 or 3 seasons. And you look at if you looked at their team sheet, there were no real standout stars, recognisable names. And they're just a solid Championship team, like you said, Matt. So you've got to give them credit for that. They've built it, and they're hanging in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. They've built it up over the last few seasons, and I think it's for us anyway. It's a model to aim for. You know, that slow process of building the team up season on season.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I disagree with people calling for Taylor's head, if I'm being honest, because that is the slower process. I mean, look at Preston. They've built this team up. They'll be up the top end this season. But yeah, just for me personally, I can't see it being sustainable.
Not this year, maybe. But you never know.
Results-wise, player-wise, yeah. Results-wise, maybe not.
Yeah. And then half-time came, Kev. That last 5 minutes before half-time was an absolute disaster. We conceded the goal, and Cam Humphreys goes to sprint literally on the stroke of half-time. Popped his hamstring, and we're left with one centre-half on the pitch for the second half. And I think, although it wasn't a particularly great performance, I think certainly the back 5, 6 including Viktor, deserve a massive amount of credit in that second half because yes, we came under a lot of pressure, but you never felt like they were destined to score. We still felt fairly solid with one centre half on pitch.
Yeah, definitely. I think that last 5 minutes, that first half, pretty much sums up Rotherham. It's just our look. I actually think it were a foul on Cam Humphreys. I think he was pushed or pulled, which made him tweak. So, but obviously that went unmissed. But yeah, obviously, I think Revan, obviously, I was looking thinking, who can come on? Who actually can come on here? Obviously, Revan came on, and I do think the defence, like you said, they deserve a lot of credit because they looked solid that second half. And I think Preston had I think Blackett at the post, wasn't it? Could have been an own goal. And Viktor made a couple of quality saves again. But apart from that, they didn't really do us any damage. It was destined to be a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, and I think that's a job that Tyler Blackett. It's good that it's almost good, Tom. And I'm not sure about this actually, but it's almost good that Tyler Blackett stayed on because he is clearly a bit more of a lead and Bobby than Cam Humphreys. Cam Humphreys is an excellent player, but I think Tyler Blackett is a better organiser. So he was able to help Corin Bramall, who was not a centre half, and Dexter was a kid, really just stay in the shape, stay in that line, and just make things really, really difficult for Preston when they try to turn up a bit of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've mentioned it a couple of weeks ago where it was almost like we were lacking a leader in that back four, and he's kind of started to come into his own a bit and taken that leadership role himself. And it showed none more than yesterday. Like you said, Bramall's not a centre half, and neither's Dexter, but they both did, a standard centre half job. And it's going to be interesting. I know we're not talking about it now, but it's going to be an interesting pick on Saturday to see if he does the same thing, to see if he changes it, to see if somebody's fit. I don't know about anyone else, but if it's the same back three again, back five again, it's going to be tough. Tough against that Cardiff front two, who caused us a lot of issues last time we played him. Don't know if it's the same two now exactly, but you can't imagine they would have changed very much. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough, but you've just got to look at it and think that with the injuries that we've got, it's so tough for Taylor to do anything different. And I'm not envious of it in the slightest. I've not yet read about how far off Hacks is. It doesn't sound as promising though.
Not next week, probably after international break.
Yeah, so it's not a promising sight on all of them injury fronts. So look, we'll see what happens, but hopefully it's a yeah. Who knows? I was going to say hopefully dip into the free agent market, but even that's not an option now, is it?
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry anymore, but when I was walking out of the ground, I talked to Colin Bramall and he was limping.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Oh, God, yeah. So, yeah, we've got three specialist centre-halves out injured. We've got as backup centre-half and Pelty out injured. And as backup centre-half for Doffin is obviously now injured. That's pretty lucky. Bit more positive then. Let's stick with positives while we can. A lot of people saying that Tyler Blackett was man of the match for them. How highly did you rate his performance, 1 to 90? You're shaking your head a little bit.
I mean, with Tyler Blackett, yeah, it was a bit of a rock at the back, don't get me wrong, but for me, he still lost the ball a little bit too much. I think the man of the match, it was Viktor, if I'm being honest. Like I said on the post-match reaction, Viktor made a lot of stunning saves, both in the first half and the second half. Like the double save in the second half cemented Viktor is man of the match for me, because they're two goal-saving blocks that he's done as the goalkeeper. I sort of get why they gave it to Jordan Hugill with sponsors, but for me, it's Viktor every day of the week. Viktor is the guy who keeps us in matches, even when we've conceded 2 or 3 goals. Viktor's still man of the match. The super performances that he puts in. But yeah, Tyler Blackett had a much improved game, don't get me wrong, but I think Viktor still edges it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree with that. Completely agree. As the second half went on, Kev, how do you think we set it in terms of away from the defensive performance? Because that was one of those games that we could sort of look at the attacking setup and sort of, because we defended quite solidly. We didn't create enough, and I don't think Hugill played badly in the second half. Particularly, I thought Green played okay with him, but we still didn't. I don't think we tested their keeper in the second half, so that is a worry that we maybe sacrificed too much defensively to not let us score, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. And you're right with Green. He made some really, really good runs in behind the defenders, controlled it well, and got in some good positions. And it's not a witch hunt against Hugill. I just think I think he could do a lot more for the caliber player he is, because he is an absolute quality player. He's played at the very highest level, and he's on an absolute wedge as well. So I just think we should get more out of him. But personally, I'd have made some changes before. I was impressed that Taylor brought Nombe on as an attacker and I think he brought a midfielder off, can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
So I'm impressed with that, rather than sit back like we normally would have done and soaked it up. I think I'm happy with that. I'd like to have seen Kelly come on a bit before. And I would have took Hugill off, not because we're playing badly, because I think he did have a good game. He scored a great goal, but I'd have just liked to have seen how Green and maybe Kelly or Green and Eves worked, getting in behind, just something different. But,
bit of energy, a bit of something different for Kelly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree. Tom, it's very early days on Nombe, and I didn't say this on the post match yesterday, I don't think, but I'm struggling with him a little bit. I know it's early days, and I don't want to dig him out. But I haven't seen anything just yet to sort of say, yeah, I can sort of see why this is good. I can see what he's going to bring. I'm struggling a tiny bit, and I feel harsh saying that, to be honest with you, Tom, but I am struggling with Nombe a little bit.
But I'll be honest, the only reason that you're saying that you feel harsh saying it is because it demanded such a big fee. If it was
you're probably right.
If it was a smaller fee or a free transfer, we'd be saying, well, what's the point in him? And I agree with you. I think he's clearly got something about him. He has to have to demand that fee and to score as many goals as he did in League One last season. It's not always going to be an easy step up, but the cameos and the flashes that he's come on, he's not done much. But I think as fans, as soon as we start to get on him as much as we could potentially get on him, that's when it will go downhill. So I think to give him as much breadth as possible. There's clearly physical sides to him that are good. He's quite quick, he's direct, and he's big and he's strong. He's got all the traits to be a good striker. It's just about trying to find that first goal. And to be fair to him, I mean, he's not starting. He started one game in 5, 4, 3, whatever it is.
We've not created anything for him in those games, have we? I suppose.
Exactly. We've not created anything at all, especially for a player of his caliber, if that makes sense. So balls in behind rather than to his than in the air. He's not really had a chance to play in his natural position. I think he likes to play in a 2 as well. So, we'll have to see. We've not, since he's joined, we've not had a game where we've played well with him on. So it's tough to see him play well when we're struggling, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's tough. It's early doors, but clearly Taylor saw something in him. I think you've just got to have the belief that we've signed so many players that fit us in the past. I think even Klukas is a great signing for us. So you've just got to have trust that Nombe is as well, and his time will come, I hope. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And it was just again an unlucky signing. But I hope it comes off for him, and I think it will do. It's just about finding that right moment, right game, right system, and then hopefully he flies from there.
I think it highlights a few things with Nombe. I think it highlights the fact that there is a massive gap in League One and Championship. And let's not forget, it was only a year ago we were in League Two, I think it was Exeter. And he's clearly he's been playing the team what's been doing well, i.e. going from promotion from League One and just missed out on players in promotion in League Two, missing out on players in League One. So he's playing with a lot of confidence in the team around him, where he's coming to our team who's lacking confidence. And I think it's affecting him. But I think give him time. I'm confident he's going to come good.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. People asking why he's not starting. Sam Nombe says why he's not starting. And Chris Nichols answers that Nombe is playing in a struggling team. And the step out everything Kev just mentioned. I'm sure it will. I certainly hope he does. We all hope he does. Danny, would you like to see, I'm not going to jump too far into Cardiff, but could you see him just dumping him in at Cardiff and just saying, here you go, lad, like we did at Millwall, but obviously that didn't work?
That's a very good question, to be fair. Part of me is like, we played really well against Preston in places. Like, could we see the same team and same formation set up? And, we've got a week or so of training to get it sorted. Maybe, obviously we have to take Humphries out and bring somebody else in. But with Nombe, it's an interesting one because, I said I'd like to see him start against Preston because he offers something different. He's quick and a bit unorthodox like Kelly is. But, Hugill's got the experience in this division and he sort of, in some regard, knows what he's doing and is a bit more of a leader up top. But with Nombe, it sort of reduces that leader element. But I don't know, this is a question for you lads as well, to be fair. Do we just go standard 4-4-2 away from home? Because
I think we need that body in midfield. We
wider players, but also you've still got your 2 up top. It's an interesting puzzle to work out, isn't it? What do we think? Do we go 4-4-2 or do we stick with 4-3-3 away from home?
We need extra body in middle for me. We really struggled against Millwall. We were so light in the midfield, and I think we did play 3 at midfield. If there were 2 in there, it'd been a bit worse. I don't think it could be much worse, to be honest with you. But I want to see 2 up top, and I think everybody else is probably pretty much the same. So it's difficult. It's definitely difficult. Kev, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd like to see it. We've got to try something different away from home. If we lose, we quite possibly will. at least try something different. At least show the fans that we are trying something. But we've got to. I'd like to see him. I'd chuck them all on. I'd play 4-2-4 and get them all up front. Let's see what happens.
Why not? Let's do it. Danny, why has somebody turned the light off where you sat anyway? You just got plunged into darkness a minute ago. What happened then?
Last orders.
Yeah,
Exactly
that. It's last orders.
It was actually.
Yeah, it is last orders. We've had nod about last orders.
Yeah, in Greece. That's why I was in front. It's only 8:30.
I know. Last orders at 8:30.
Well, it's out of season now, isn't it?
Okay.
Get him in then.
Wetherspoon's slow.
Holly says we're missing Jamie, and Ian Bradley says the player we missed more than any was Cafu, the only creative player in the squad. Yeah, I mean, Klukas was good, and we will come on to Klukas in a minute, Tom. But so I listened to Radio Sheffield on way out from stadium, and there was a guy on radio saying that if Cafu played yesterday, we win that game. Now he's probably right because we just lack something to help Hugill, to help Nombe, to just create something. We just lack a lot of creativity at the minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've got two engine houses and a sweeper in that midfield at the minute, and it's not lacking creativity, but it's not got that edge to it that Cafu had. I mean, the set pieces that he brings alone is a different level. But you could argue that we're missing a whole squad at this point through injuries, and it's ridiculous at this point. I mean, we spoke to Taylor just before pre-season and the thing about the training grounds and the improvements there, and he hoped that would be an improvement to injuries, but in regards to how many hamstrings are getting flung and just torn and whatnot, there's something wrong there. But yeah, I think we're not just missing individual players, we're missing depth. We're missing because I think I can't remember who. I think Taylor might have said it. That injury to Humphries happens because he's been playing for the last season consistently at a high level, and he's not wrong every single game he's been a part of. But yeah, it's getting on top of us now, and it's starting to look like the risks that we took with these injury-prone players are not paying off. Which people can say, yeah, we should have seen this coming, but in terms of the caliber of player that we were bringing in, we weren't going to bring in that caliber of player without a little bit of a side contract to it, in regards to how fit they were. So, you know, we are missing so many players. That's all you can really say. You know, the individual quality will come back, and it will come back, but how quickly and how many are going to leave before that individual quality comes back in as well? How many more are going to get injured? So, you know, it's tough.
Yeah, I think Matt Taylor said in his post-match yesterday that I think I was asked by Staten about it, and he sort of basically said, "This is the money we've got to spend. These are the best kind of players we've got. We can't spend the money on young players. And even if you buy a bunch of injured players, Kevin, who've got bad injuries, it's still really unlikely that 8 of them will get injured at the same time." But I've noticed from other clubs, there seems to be a lot of other clubs having the same issues this season. It just seems an odd time in football, really. It's just a bit weird. Yeah,
it is. I don't think there's anything untoward happening in training. The training ground's not fit for. Well, we know the training ground's not fit for purpose, but the pitch is absolutely fantastic out there. It's like for like the New York Stadium pitch. So it's not that. I just think it's really, really bad luck. I don't think we're doing anything wrong at all. It's just really unfortunate, and we have got some absolute probably is it 7 or 8 like who would be in our starting 11 or thereabouts in the starting 11 missing. But it's when we get them back and how soon we get them back. But you're right about the creativity. That for me, that's all. I'm not saying we'd have won if Cafu would have played like other guy, but it certainly would have helped the cause. Just someone pinging some balls, like I said, set pieces. And we've talked about him before, but one of our best ever set piece players and passes the ball sat on bench at Middlesbrough, not even getting close to a start. I'd have him back in January all day long.
100%. And it hurt us on that front yesterday, Danny. If we talk about injuries again, there's a reason we couldn't push on. So in normal circumstances, it'd be great to bring Jamie Lindsay on 70th minute or Shane Ferguson just to add a bit of quality with left foot, add a bit of engine at midfield. We just can't make those changes at the key times in the game. I just had that feeling of dread that we would just concede just because we couldn't change. So I think we deserve a bit more credit just for not folding and sticking to the task because we were desperate for that extra change.
Yeah, I agree. To be fair, it's like we saw Preston bringing on 3 players at once at one point, and
If only.
and you look at it and just go, Gareth, just to be not to be that guy, but just turn it down a little bit for me, please. Yeah, thank you. But with those extra changes, like bringing Lindsay onto midfield, like you say, and even making the defensive change, with Humphreys coming off and bringing Grant Hall on, that'd be, the ideal situation. But we're in the time frame where nobody's back yet, and we're still waiting for extra bodies. And then it's like one-person substitutions, which you don't really see that often now. We've got the 5 sub rule. I thought it was a bit strange that it was just Nombe coming on, but then it's like, who else do you bring on? In this current situation, like with Bramall, like the obvious switch is Ferguson to give that delivery, but he's not back yet. Don't get me wrong, the young lad's done really well who came out on the left-hand side, but then with Humphreys going off, it's crying out for someone like Hall or Morrison just to slot in and be, your senior figure at the back. But we've got no other option. And I think that's one thing that really changed the second half. We had no out-and-out replacement for Humphreys. But yeah, you're right. It does seem a weird thing. Like John's mentioned before, Birmingham have got 6 senior players out. We've got 6 senior players out. Some clubs are getting some players back who got injured in pre-season. We're still waiting on a load of players. It's like, what's going on? Is something in the water that's making everyone injured or something? You know what I mean? But at the same time, we can joke about it. But when it comes to, like mid to late October, when we've got nearly a full-strength squad, will we see a different Rotherham United? When we've got everyone back. That's the question that keeps floating around my head, anyway.
The potential's there. The potential's there to a really, really sensible season. It's not playing out that way yet, though, sadly. Sam Clucas, Tom, he made his second start. He's a good championship player. He gets around the pitch pretty well. He's another one of those you just got to try and keep fit as best you can.
Yeah.
He did flag towards the end, I think, which is understandable. But he's going to be a really, really useful player.
Yeah, and the key word that you use there is useful, because if Cafu comes back relatively soon, does he come in for him? Do you rotate it a bit more? Because he's a very good player, but he's getting on, and like a lot of Stoke fans said, if you can keep him fit, he's a good player, but keeping him fit is tough, because he's been very injury hit in the last 2 years, which for 2 years is again it's so tough to come back from it and not be scared about getting that injury again. But yeah, he's a great player. He's a steady player. He's a bit of class, a bit of technical, a bit of a technical engine house, similar to Ollie, just a more experienced Ollie, I think, with a bit more class to him. He's got a good left foot on him. Can put some good set pieces in. Can put some good, picks a pass well, covers the ground well. I think he'll be a great asset. Is he a starter? I don't know. Some games yes, some games no. That rhymed. But yeah, I don't know. He's a useful asset. I'd say. I'm consistently impressed with him whenever I see him play.
Yeah. If we had a full fit midfield, he'd have a serious headache to pick from, wouldn't he, Matt Taylor? You'd have to drop Ollie or drop something like we haven't mentioned T.I., who had a really good game yesterday. He'd be having an absolute headache with that midfield if half of them were fit.
Just on a side note, is he got to a point now where he's undroppable? Do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's doing what Conor Cummins did eventually. He's doing his best to fill in the Dan Barlaser role without the quality at either end of the pitch. But I thought it was excellent again yesterday, Kev. He looks after the ball, and when I see him on the ball, it just makes me as a fan feel a little bit better, because I just don't think he's going to lose it. It just helps calm everything down, it feels like to me. Yeah,
you can see that little bit of extra class, can't he? He's got it. He's got that calmness, and he's not the most orthodox player. He looks a bit awkward sometimes on ball, but he just seems to pull it together and make the right decisions. But going back to Clucas, I think lad's quality. I think he's getting better each game as well. And the difference is to Rathbone. It's very similar. He's very similar to Jamie Lindsay as well, to be fair. One of them biting midfielders who gets stuck in. But I think it makes the better decisions. There were a couple of times yesterday, Ollie for me, were dwindling on the ball and could have put a cross in sooner. Klukas on the other side, the ball comes out to me, whips it straight in. A couple of times he did it. And Rathbone is fantastic. He's an absolute unbelievable player. But I think he could learn off Klukas and look at how he plays and thinks, right, maybe I should be doing that different or next time, whip it in a bit quicker. But I think he's brilliant. I think he's a great addition. And he'll probably up there with one of the man of matches yesterday for me. I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah, I think Ollie's been off it for at least the last 2 games, probably even Huddersfield game. The last 3 games, his levels have dropped a bit, but that could be down just playing every game. Tom might tell me sort of mentioned Cameron Humphries playing all the time, so he's got injured. Could be Ollie had his injury from last season. He's not getting a second to sort of come out of the team, and not play at the minute. Martin Holland says, "What about Bowler? Maybe he could fill in at the back. Not an option. Not in the squad. The squad's been filled. So Talaji Bowler is unavailable." But in fairness, Danny, with the situation we're in, we don't need another left-sided defender particularly. We've got Cohen Bramwell filled in admirably at left centre-back yesterday, and Revenue was very, very solid at left wing-back. So I don't actually think we need Bowler. No,
it's a case of them players stepping up, in my opinion, and they won't be asked to step up, for the rest of the season or whatever like that. It's just a plug-in hole sort of thing that we've had to deal with at the minute. But like you say, Bramwell's done the job at left side of centre back. Then Revan's come on and done the wing back role. So we've got the pegs to put in the holes basically. And don't get me wrong, it's a shame about Bowler not being part of the squad and this, that, and other. But we've got the options, and it's not quite all hands to the pumps until like Ferguson's back and the other centre halves are back. But it's giving me a confidence that we've got players who can fill in, and like you say, Bramwell did a very good job at left side and centre back, even though we were forced into that change. And Blackett was the only out and out centre half on the pitch, but it worked. It worked against a team who know how to attack, and that gives me more confidence going forward that we've got options to rotate it round a little bit. If, like I said, push comes to shove and we need to make those changes. Like in an ideal world, Humphries has gone off and Hall or Morrison have come on, like I said, but to have Bramwell switch to the centre back role and then Revan come on for wing back and to have played well, they weren't outstanding, but they played well. It's a confidence boost. It's a confidence boost that we've got options. I think if they were forced into that role and they'd done appallingly, it would be alarm bells. Don't get me wrong. But they've come in, they've done well, and it's like, okay, we have options, and it's nice to have options, even though push comes to shove, we needed those options, but we've got them.
I'm happy with Bramwell.
Well.
Yeah. I think there's an option there with Bramwell at centre back because I thought, it allowed the overload on the left hand side as well. He still managed to bomb on a little bit without neglecting the defensive responsibility as a centre half. So if push came to shove, we may see that. We may not see that. We'll find out. We had a comment from Ian. Says just late on. He says late on the game was in the family stand, and for me we were very lucky not to concede a penalty. Fred's challenge on Miller. Wasn't convinced at the time. Tom, any thoughts on that? I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought it would have been very soft for me.
Yeah, it's that classic. It's one of them that when it's given against you, you think you've been hard done by, but when you're given, you think you need it for you. I don't know. It's clumsy. It's not. You can tell he's not a defender because he gets the wrong side, and he tries desperately to get the right side, and it's just, it's clumsy. Personally, if it was given, you kind of think, all right, fair enough. But I think the fact that it wasn't given, it's not, in terms of if VAR looked at it, it's not a clear and obvious error. I don't know. I don't think it is anyway. I think on the basis of being biased, probably not. But it's definitely one of them. He's got the wrong side. He's not a defender. He put his body into him. The lad went down relatively soft. So probably not a penalty. But I can see Kev's going to disagree with that.
No, I agree. I don't think it was a penalty. I completely agree with what you said. It was a bit, but I could also, considering the second half that referee had, I wouldn't have been surprised at all if they'd given it.
True.
He lost it, didn't he, in second half, referee? I thought, up until the debatable goal, and then when the debatable goal went in, he just sort of lost his head a little bit.
Like when Lado went down injured, with TA, went down injured. It clearly an head. I'm not sure whether he actually injured his head or not, but he rolled in his head. 30 seconds later, Kluge started to hack down the man just to stop play. Picked up a yellow card. Then Taylor gets a yellow card for remonstrating, saying, "Why didn't you stop the play?" It's just, he had some mad minutes.
Yeah, he did. The only other contentious moment, Danny, from a referee is the Tyler Blackett incident where he got booked. Certain people suggesting it could have been upgraded. For me, he got all of the ball, and I didn't think, to be honest, it was a foul. I thought it was a really harsh foul. Did the referee get that one right?
I mean, if it's subjective of it being upgraded, does that come from Preston fans or does it come from our fans?
It's probably from Preston fans.
You know, because let's face it, if it's come from Preston fans, they'll always want it upgrading because it then gives them the advantage. But for me, with Blackett, it's one of them where it's like you can see why he's given the yellow card, but at the same time you can see why it's a little bit harsh. You know. And some people have said that the challenge by Robinson at Sheffield United was far worse than Blackett's challenge, and Robinson got the yellow card for it, and Blackett's wasn't half as bad. But it's one where it's like I'm not really full. He didn't get sent off. I think if he got sent off, it'd be more of a contentious decision on our side. Yeah. But you have to remember it's a contact sport. There are going to be some harder challenges that doesn't warrant a red card, you know. And in my opinion, referees done the correct thing where it's like it's not quite a red card, but it's above a talking to. So he's giving him yellow. So I'm not really fussed with that decision. I think the ref had a good game overall. There's some ifs and maybes here and there with the referee, but he's had an okay game overall. It's the linesman where my issue is, shall we say.
Yeah, there was a few instances with the linos. Jordan Hugill got hit in the first half, which the lino missed as well. He missed a foul on Viktor, not the goal, but another foul on Viktor as well. Yeah. They had a hit and missed. It certainly wasn't the worst refereeing performance we've seen this season by a long way. So I suppose we've been trained to think that was an okay performance, maybe.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
Mark says it was a foul, not a booking. Phil says if it was Madley, it'd have been a red. Which is probably true. John Morell's still not happy about Tyler Blackett playing for Blackburn back in the day, so he'd send Blackett off for simple crimes against football. But that's just John. Fair enough, John. We're going to finish by talking about Viktor, Tom, because we shouldn't forget it. We mentioned him briefly, but he's probably the reason we picked up a point. There was a great save in the first half. I thought he was pretty commanding of his box, other than the goal that went in. He nearly did his shoulder again by coming from one of them. I've not seen as a dip this season, but I don't think he's won us any points yet this season. But yesterday he did. He won us that point for me.
Yeah, and if your keeper wins you the occasional point here and there, then he's a great goalkeeper. Yeah. So I think that's all that you've really got to say about it. I do sometimes think he could be a bit more commanding, especially inside his own 6-yard box. But I think that's to do with his height rather than any technical attribute. But yeah, I mean, that double save in the second half, the save in the first half, it's just, it's all part and parcel of what he does. And when you look at teams like, I hate saying that, when you look at QPR, for example, and you see Asmir Begovic in goal, you think he's going to win us some points this season. You kind of look at Viktor and think a similar vein. Both exceptional goalkeepers with not a great defensive record in front of them. So if they're if they're on form, which Viktor was last season, which arguably kind of did help, massively helped us keep us up. If you can do it again this season and win us a point here, 2 points there, 3 points there, 2 extra points, then it's they all amount up. This 1 point yesterday could look at the end of the season like the most vital point in the last 3 years of the club. So I think keepers are a huge part, and I think we've got a good one. Definitely attributes he can improve. I think his kicking's getting better, but I don't think it's quite there yet. Yeah, I think his handling is getting better, but it's not quite there yet. Definitely improvements to be made. But in terms of shot stopping, I can't see a better goalkeeper other than I think Begovic, which says a lot.
Yeah. Sam Nombe says, how are we going to keep him? I think the short answer is we're not. Viktor is destined for bigger and better things than Rotherham United, sadly. Whether that's in January or next year or the year after.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. You know, I think he could be one of them players who loves it that much at the club. Gives his career to us. I might be wrong, and I think we're going. In a way, like you said, Matt, he's not been at his absolute best this season, but he has made. And for me, I'm glad because it means in January there's not going to be as many people knocking on that door who testing us. Because I'm not worried we'll lose him in January because I think the money Tony Stewart and that's invested this season on wages and signings, £3-4 million is not going to take his goalkeeper away from us. But if someone comes knocking and they're chucking 6 or 7, who knows? Who knows? So keep being a bit low key, Viktor, making them quality saves, and we'll be all right.
Yeah, just the occasional one.
Yeah.
Anything else, boys, that we need to mention from the game? First of all, anything else from the game that you want to mention? I think we've covered most performances, positively, negatively, refereeing. Cool. So, Kev, let's start with you first of all. Legends Night. Tell everybody why they should buy tickets if they haven't done already. Yeah, so I don't know if everyone's seen, they probably hopefully have, but the 4th Legends Night is coming up on the 1st of December. It sounds long away, but it's not. It's October next week, so it's only a couple of months away. We've sold just over 250 tickets, which is fantastic. Thank you, everyone's bought, but that does mean there's 90 left, so it'd be nice to sell it out again. It's going to be a brilliant night. As always, we've got, for the older people, we've got Andy Williams, played twice for Rotherham. We've got Guy Branson's back. So he did the first one at the rugby club, so he wanted the bigger one. And we've got Adam Collins and we've got Kevin Watson as well. So it's a brilliant lineup again. Obviously, the usual Ronnie and Brex will be there and a few other extra special guests. So tickets still on sale. So yeah, please let's sell it out again and make some big money for the charity. Absolutely, definitely. So we'll be there. I'll certainly be there. We want to announce the winner. We're doing a giveaway with Footy Fits, who are giving away a hat. We've done a draw. If you like the tweet and things like that. Johnny Ra1 is his Twitter handle. You have won the hat. Footy Fits will be in contact with you to arrange the hats. You can purchase them on the website if you want to go on Footy Fits. They're quite nice, actually. So if you want to look at those.
Did anybody buy a tattoo yesterday? Temporary tattoo?
I didn't know.
I was tempted to, but never mind.
No. John Morell says, where is Mick? I was looking forward to Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United one-liners. Mick rudely arranged something on a Sunday night for some reason. He's been busy on a Sunday night for the last 3 years, but he's organised something tonight, so he should be back on Thursday. I
can get a Sheffield United one-liner straight out of the way. Like, I'd hate, or should I say 8, to be a Sheffield United fan tonight.
Very good, Danny. Very, very good.
Good on. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Right, last call. Anything else you want to mention, boys, before we get off?
No. It was nice to have King Bush on the show tonight. Did you not notice in the?
I did.
It was there.
Accounts. Yeah. I must be running out of emails. To think of for you, to be honest. Thank you, everybody, with us. If you want to go back and watch the interaction, that is still up on YouTube. Mick tells a funny story about one of the Preston players diving in the pre-match warm-up, which is quite funny. So go watch that if you haven't done already. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't done already, and give this video a thumbs up. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify again, make sure you've subscribed and give us a 5-star rating wherever it lets you. Thank you very much, Kev, for being with us tonight. Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.
And Tom, pleasure to have you with us again, mate.
Always is.
And Danny, you gonna is last orders done, or have you got time to go get a quick beer?
I'm going to Wetherspoons now. And I'd just like to apologise if I've been distracted over this side. There's been a swan swimming up and down the canal all night, and it's like it's been come over the barrier and disturbed me. But no, we've been all right. But yeah, I'm off for another beer. But thanks, lads, for having me on, and it's always been a pleasure talking about Rotherham United with you all.
Always is. Thank you very much, Danny. Up the Millers, guys, and we'll see you on Thursday for the next episode.
See you Thursday.
Slides into Wales through a goal, slots it beyond Fodringham, and the Millers are in front in the South Yorkshire derby. And for the first time in 42 years, Rotherham United win at Bramall Lane. On the edge of the box, the Dolphin, he can hit them, and he does. The Dolphin has scored an absolute screamer for Rotherham United. Rotherham United have secured their championship status for next season.